In the beginning of 2014, we have established the Ukrainian think tank Liaison office in Brussels, which I'm now executive director and co-founder of the office. And our main purpose and our main goal is to promote Ukraine here in the EU, to bring Ukraine closer to the European Union based on our knowledge and expertise. Because we are uniting and representing 21 Ukrainian think tanks from wide variety of expertise fields. And this is how we believe we serve our country. Of course, this is very high words, but this is exactly what we are doing, trying at least to do, to advocate, to promote Ukraine, to let people know about the country. Despite all what we have, we still have a very promising civil society in the country, and we want to give them a stronger voice. I think this is the key problem what we have. This is the mental perception that Ukraine is a separate country. Ukraine is the country which has the freedom to decide its own destiny and where and with whom she wants to go further. And I think this is the problem we are now facing, that we have again and again to re-establish this right to decide for ourselves. And yes, on the border or not on the border, this is different concepts about this. But I would say it's not only about destiny of Ukraine, it's a destiny of, I would say, of freedom as such. Because if you do not allow the country to decide its own history and to decide its own destiny, then what values do we protect? Do we have this freedom or not? And I would say that Ukraine is a really good case study, if you want, for everyone, those who are trying to protect freedoms in the world and those who are trying to suppress freedoms in the world. So we became really kind of a battlefield for freedom. Yeah. And it's so obvious because this is really in the near of the borders of the European Union and our eastern neighbor. More exactly, we have 21 member organizations who are think tanks from Ukraine. Of course, they are majorly from Kiev, but this is very typical for the think tank community to be located in the capitals of the country. But we, of course, represent also regional think tanks from Ukraine. These think tanks deal with a lot of areas of expertise, starting with the constitutional building, to anti-corruption, to local governance, to political party buildings. We have also sociological service. We have also, of course, those who deal with economic issues and implementation of deep and comprehensive free trade agreement between Europe and Ukraine. We have those who deal with the distribution of knowledge about Ukraine in country, about EU in country. What do we do with all this expertise? We tell people, those who listen here in the European Union, and of course outside of the European Union, who are listening to and who make decisions on Ukraine, we tell this story of Ukraine with our own words, with our expertise. Because even if we do not speak perfect English, but we, as Ukrainians, do know our country the best. And that's why this voice should be brought here, so that it's minimize the area for propaganda, it minimize the area for any playing with facts. And this telling the picture which we know. And this is what we do. So we work in joining three main directions. So first, it's of course communication, telling the story of Ukraine, telling what is happening in different fields of reforms fields. Second, we work also kind of an advocacy agency. So those messages which we believe is important for Ukrainian civil society, we bring them here. in Brussels, but also in the EU capitals. And the third, our function is to serve our member organizations, because we bring them closer, we integrate them with the EU expert community. And that's why we believe that we make them stronger, we give them added value, and by doing them stronger, we do civil society of Ukraine stronger. I must admit the European Union is doing a lot. So they focus on reforms in Ukraine. And we as experts, we always repeat this, that the Ukraine is now, unfortunately, has to fight on two fronts. One is external, with external aggression of the Russian Federation for the territories and of course, for the minds of people, by the way. And another front is internal. And this front is for reforms. It's already almost 2 years after the Revolution of Dignity. Many of the results of it did we achieve or not. Now we are evaluating this. Maybe not everything is going so perfect as we wanted to. But this is, again, when you look back into the history, it's a very logical process what is going on in Ukraine. We want these reforms, we want transformations to be faster, to be deeper, to involve and engage more people. But it goes as it goes. We engage and we invest our time, our efforts, our intellectual inputs in order to make Ukraine to succeed in this process. So that's why the question was how EU can help. Exactly, to continue our reforms and democratic building process and help to protect us, help us to close our borders and to release our territories from the foreign military troops. Think tanks are always needed, because last year in September, with the support of the mission of the US to the EU, I conducted a visit to the USA, just a study visit to learn how the American think tanks are working. And as you believe, America is on a scale of democratic development is a bit higher of Ukraine, but they still have a lot of think tanks and they're very powerful. So the role of think tanks is just to form their thoughts and to help the politicians and the decision makers to move the country or organizations or what it can be forwards, to look ahead, what is coming, and to be prepared for future. So we are kind of pioneers on this path, and we believe, at least we want to believe, because this is our job, so we will have to do something in future, that our role will never be kind of stopped or finished. So, and then after Ukraine becomes EU member, then it will always be to do something inside EU.